Yes, people, welcome back to the 1894 for a brand new video. Today we're doing an October review, a month that started off so well and didn't finish so well. Let's get into our thoughts. Right, Joe, the month of October started off in fine fashion. We went to Anfield, we played Liverpool, and we drew 2 each. A game that I still feel we probably should have won, and I know it's easy to say these things in hindsight, but maybe with a striker and with all the chances we created, we possibly could have scored 2 or 3 more on top of what we did already, particularly in that first half. I know it's a couple of weeks ago now, the memory may be hazy, but I do remember in that first half, we heavily dominated. The referee did help Liverpool out a little bit in that game, particularly James Milner. It still baffles me to this day, thinking about how he still remained on the pitch after completely 180ing Bernardo Silva. But it was a good game nevertheless, and it got our month off to a good start. You know, we were able to build and get some momentum from that. It's usually a tough place for us to go, but we got a result. You know, they're a direct title rival, and to get a point there is pretty useful, considering I'd fancy our chances to beat them in the Etihad. But then, you know, you move on to the end of this month, and maybe not so much. But at that time, what do you remember? What do you think? In terms of the month, the overall month, how that affected?
Well, the month couldn't have started. It could have started better. We could have won, you know, if buts, maybes. But, you know, we don't do those things. You know, it almost felt like a win. It almost felt like a win at the time to come away with a 2-2 draw, you know, because we came back from 1 down to come level. We came back from 2-1 down to come level again. You know, okay, yeah, Liverpool were helped because they should have been a man down. But at that point, it was just all about not losing ground on Liverpool, because Liverpool were above us. And they still are at this moment in time. It was about not losing ground, you know, just come away, draw or a win, it doesn't really matter, you know, as long as you're not losing out on points to your title rivals, you know, that's the main objective. And we did that. We got away with a draw, and it set us up for the month.
In the context of the week that game was in, it was an absolutely fantastic result. If you remember correctly, we played Chelsea the weekend before, and we played PSG somewhere in between there in the Champions League. So to get a win, I know it was in September, but to get a win in Stamford Bridge and then to get a draw in Anfield with two of our direct title rivals was an absolutely flying start. And I think it's fair to say, after we play United next weekend away, we kind of have all our toughest, or, you know, what you'd expect to be our toughest away fixtures out of the way. Anyway, moving on to Burnley, I was at the game on the 16th of October. It was a 2-0 win. I think Bernardo scored a goal. I'm struggling to remember who scored the second. It was quite similar to a lot of the home games we played this season, where we were struggling to create chances. And once again, same old tale. Maybe if we had a striker, we would have scored a few more. But that's all if buts and maybes. Like you said, we don't like to do them. It's important, just keep grinding out the results. It was by no means the best performance in the world, but like I said, we just got the 3, keep it ticking over, keep pressure on Chelsea and Liverpool, who were directly above us at the time. And Joe, what do you think?
It was all about, again, the result at the moment. We just need to keep grinding out results at that point. You know, we had a must-win Champions League game midweek after that. Let's not forget, because at the time in that group we were 3rd. So the Burnley game was all about, you know, come away, no injuries, you know, just win the game, get it done, and take players off and rest them for that, you know, the Bruges game that we played next. You know, it wasn't scintillating. We weren't great. We had no Edison. We had no Jesus. They were both in Belgium because of their international duty, and, you know, we kept a clean sheet. I mean, I think it was De Bruyne who got the second one on his left foot. I mean, we just got the win. It didn't have to be spectacular, but when you're in a title race, you know, 3 points is 3 points. It doesn't really matter.
Point after the Burnley game, I remember leaving the Etihad and saying it was a champion's performance, not because it was glorious or it was magnificent pet ball. It was just grinding out a win the way you have to when you're in a dogfight for a title. You know, all your title rivals are getting wins. You just have to keep on top, keep putting pressure, keep applying pressure. So I was perfectly fine. I said, listen, if we can grind out results like that all season against tough opposition who just play the low block and sit back deep, I'm happy out, get the 3 points. Then it was the return of the Champions League on the 19th of October, a Tuesday night. We travelled to Bruges in Belgium. Like you said, I think 1 or 2 players were there to avoid the quarantine in Manchester. It was an emphatic win. It really was. It was 5-1 and could have been 8 or 9 from what I remember. Once again, I'll say this pretty well for every game because it is a tale that seems to be reoccurring. With a striker, more goals. Genuinely, more goals. We create so many chances in these games. And in games like this Bruges game, it'll click and the chances will go in and you'll get someone to tap them in. But then you'll have games like later on in the month, you'll see it just doesn't happen. There's no one there to finish them. But this was an absolutely fantastic win. It meant that if we do beat Bruges now next week at the time recording on the return leg at home, it puts us on 9 points, and you would like to think that will pretty well seal the deal for us going into the last 16. Whether we top the group or not, I don't know, and I don't think that's actually massively important because I'm happy to play against anyone after Christmas in the last 16. But this was a massive win, and it was also about keeping the momentum going, keeping that winning streak going, and getting goals on the board, showing that we can score goals. Joe, this was an important game. What do you think?
Yeah, I remember it was odd because it was an early kickoff on a Tuesday. It was 6:15, which was odd. We haven't had one of those for a while now. I can't remember the last one, but I mean, again, we needed to win that game. That was a must-win, which is weird, but it was because they were above us by a point at the time, and we went there. We absolutely dominated, like you said. It genuinely could have been about 10. Unlucky to concede, but I mean, not really that I'm bothered. I think LIVMCI was on the pitch at that point, so we'd made a significant amount of changes. Cole Palmer scored, came on and scored. That was big. That set him up for possibly getting more minutes. Although you never know. I remember that Burnley game, he came on as a sub there and then played with the under-23s the same day. We had a lot of football that week, but again, it was just, we're capable of scoring with or without a striker, which is scary.
Yeah, at that point, I'm starting to crack jokes on Twitter. City need a striker. I'm getting confident in this team. I thought we'd found our groove. I thought we found the knack to score goals without a striker in the way we did last season when we played the false nine system. It looked like us at our peak last season and possibly even better. And like you said, yes, it was pretty well Cole Palmer's week. The week revolved around him. He was making the headlines, getting 10 minutes against Burnley. I was there. I was like, oh, fantastic. I saw him coming on. Great. Going to get a look at Cole Palmer. Then I get word when I get back to Dublin that night that he's just scored a hat-trick for the EDS. And I was mind blown. And then he obviously gets his goal out in Bruges, which was fantastic for him. But then we moved on to Brighton, and once again, I thought it was a champion's performance, particularly the first half. We went, Brighton are a good team. Graham Potter has that team set up pretty well. I think they got a pretty good result today. At the time of recording, they drew away to Liverpool, so it just shows you what they're capable of. And maybe the scoreline doesn't reflect fairly on Brighton, because I know in that second half, I remember watching saying Brighton possibly deserved a little bit more from the game than to lose 4-1. But nevertheless, we got the 3 points, and that was absolutely crucial. And I thought, you know what? This is a sign that we're able to get results when we're not even playing our best, especially in the second half. We did well not to concede any more goals because Brighton were definitely hammering on the door. But it's a very tough place to go, the Amex. Very tough place to go. A lot of teams go there and top teams expect to have all the ball, but Brighton don't allow that. Once Brighton clicked into gear in the second half, they did apply the pressure on us. Joe, Brighton away.
They were too respectful in that first half. They gave us far too much respect, letting us have the ball, pop it around. And it showed because we were 3-0 up at half time in a game where you think, we're in third, they're in fourth. It shouldn't be this easy, but it was. It's probably one of the best halves of football I've ever seen. We were just so good. But we just fell off in the second half. We failed to turn up. We failed to come out for the second half. No one showed up. We couldn't get out of our own half. Brighton piled on the pressure. They could have scored more. The goal came from a penalty, which it was offside in the build-up, but at the end of the day, they still deserved to score anyway, so regardless. But I mean, even that second half technically finished 1-1 because we still scored in it, so it wasn't like the end of the world, I suppose, not getting a clean sheet, but no, it was convincing enough. As I said, they were in the top 4 at that point, so we thought it was going to be a tougher game than it really panned out to be.
Still do give a fair bit of credit to Brighton for how they did do in the second half. They are a very good team. Graham Potter has, for the quality of player he has them playing really, really well. But in terms of City, up until this point in the month, we played Brighton on October 23rd. There seemed to be a reoccurring pattern each week, which was that City would play really, really well in one half, which would kind of save their bacon a little bit. It would stop us getting beaten. We'd either play so well in the first half that we couldn't be caught in the second half, or else we'd play so well in the second half that we win the game. Something along those lines. Like, remember the Liverpool game, we played really, really well in the first half. And like I said, if we had taken our chances in the first half, we would have been out of sight, I think, by half time. And that's kind of what happened at Brighton. We were out of sight by half time. If Brighton had prevented 1 or 2 of our goals, it was game on for that second half, and you're biting your nails at that stage. But listen, there was 3 wins and a draw, on the draw against arguably the best team in the league with the best player in the league, Mohamed Salah. We moved into the League Cup. We played West Ham away just last Wednesday, October 27th. We haven't been, at this stage, we haven't been beaten in the Carabao Cup in 5 years. And maybe there was a sense of complacency. If you watch our review the other day, I said there's possibly a sense of complacency that maybe we feel this is just a competition we have a knack for, other teams don't care enough about it. But we faced a very, very good David Moyes West Ham. They are in top form. They're doing very, very well in the Europa League group, and they just beaten Spurs. They're a good team. They were always going to pose a threat. They set up to basically do what every team does against us, but a lot of teams fail, which is just defend like crazy, low block, stay deep, counter when you can. They got very few chances. If you remember our review, we rated all our back four a 7 or a 6 because they didn't actually have to do much. They didn't add a huge amount, but they didn't have to defend either. So West Ham kind of got a gift from the gods when it got brought to a penalty shootout, because it becomes a lottery at that stage. And then we came crashing out. We lost on penalties. Phil Foden missed the first one. I think we spoke about that off camera. If you miss the first penalty or your own first penalty, you're kind of setting yourself up for disaster, maybe 8 times out of 10. But we came crashing out the Carabao Cup, which can, you can look at it in a positive or a negative way. Negative is we don't get the 5 in a row of the Carabaos. We've had a good run, 4 in a row, fantastic. And the positive being we're not going to have that extra game midweek, I don't know, at some stage in the next couple of weeks. I think they're going to the quarterfinals now, maybe. So that's 3 less games to play if we were to go all the way to the final, which means we can focus on the likes of the Premier League, the Champions League, and less so the FA Cup. Joe, this was a tough one to take because we were doing so well.
It was the good old Pep, ring out the changes, 8-9 changes to the team, which normally happens in the Cup, and we had the squad to do it. It just didn't work out on the day. We had all the ball because West Ham just defended, fair enough. They had a game plan. They stuck to the game plan. It worked because they won. I think as soon as it got to sort of, as soon as we were making our changes, I think they were more than happy to play for penalties at that point. I don't know whether that was the game plan for the start. They probably were thinking, if we can nick one, then maybe. But, they knew that their best chance was arguably penalties, sticking it 0-0, 1-1, whatever, and taking it to penalties. Because our penalty record, while our shootout record isn't too bad, our just overall penalties are just woeful. We have a problem with them, we really do. And I do think I'm still trying to get my head around who thought it was a good idea to let Foden go and take it first. I've seen him take one penalty, and it was in the Community Shield a few years ago against Liverpool, and that's the only time I've ever seen him take one in an actual game. I'm still absolutely baffled as to why someone like Gundogan, who's still there, didn't take one. But I mean, you're right. We should be able to focus on other competitions now. That should be, at most 3 games less. We should have 3 midweeks where we're not focusing on a game.
Yeah, I must say all credit to West Ham. They had a game plan. They stuck to it. It was efficient and it worked. They got their reward. They knocked us out, and that's massive for them. I said in the preview to that game they would take massive confidence from beating City, the champions of England, in essentially their own competition. So that meant West Ham had beaten both ourselves and United in consecutive Carabao Cup games, which is quite the achievement for David Moyes, I must say. I do wish them well. I'd like to see them go on and win it. I think they're a club that deserves a bit of silverware from the progression they've made in the last few years. But once again, from a City perspective, disappointing. And then we said in the review, we have to bounce back from this. I know it's a loss. We failed to score. I can't remember the last time we failed to score in a game, but we did. And we were expecting a big bounce back in the Palace game, which happened today at the time of recording. Make sure you watch Joe and Patter's review if you haven't done already. You'll get a bigger breakdown. But like I said, we expected a big bounce back. I was expecting a lot of goals, a strong team, a big performance, get that momentum back, get that feel-good factor back, but it never came. Pep did field what we deemed to be the strongest team possible, but it all just went completely tits up. Laporte giving a back pass that was just absolutely hospital. Laporte getting himself sent off. You would like to think that means Stones is going to come into the equation for the month of November. We know the impact he had last season when he got his chance. Hopefully he can do that again. It was just really, really disappointing. And the last 2 games were quite a sour note to end what was generally a good month on. Having started the month drawing away at Anfield, which, like Joe said, felt a bit like a win, then finishing the month losing at home to Palace. I mean, if you want to win the Premier League and you're competing with the likes of Chelsea, who have just beaten Newcastle away, you have to make your home ground a fortress. The Etihad has to become a fortress. You can't be conceding cheap points. We've drawn at home now to Southampton and we've lost at home to Palace. That's not good enough. That's not Champions form. Now, I'm not saying this is detrimental to the rest of our season and our title hopes. Let's remember last season we turned it around after Christmas, and I do believe that the boys can do it again. But in terms of the month of October, which we're actually reviewing today, the last 2 fixtures were a very sour note to end it on, and I can only hope that we do improve that substantially going into our next Champions League game against Bruges, put the Champions League out of sight, out of mind, and then carry it on into that all-important derby. But Joe, these last 2 games, and more specifically Palace, to finish the month on, wasn't very nice.
It's horrible. It's really, really deflating because, like you said, the rest of the month was great. We scored 4, we scored 5. We didn't lose at Anfield. We beat Burnley in a game where, it was more about the result rather than performance. And then, okay, we get knocked out the Carabao Cup, which was a little bit disappointing, but I suppose I don't really care too much because I'd rather win the league than the Carabao Cup. But this Palace result, just everything went wrong. I cannot blame Pep for anything on this Palace game. Anything. He put out the exact team that I would have put out, the strongest team we had available on paper, and it failed. The stuff not going our way. I mean, I don't want to talk about refs, but I mean, it's up to the 88th minute to book the keeper, for goodness sake. It was time wasting, It's stuff like that, and then obviously we get hit on the break for the second because we're throwing men forward to try and get an equaliser. We have an equaliser that's disallowed, rightly so, and then Laporte just crumbles in the first half. This could be the turning point like last season, like you said, where Stones comes back in. I'd like to see a Stones-Laporte partnership for Bruges, so Laporte still gets some minutes and Stones gets some minutes as well ahead of the derby, because he will have to play that. But it was just shocking. Everything went wrong and it was nothing to do. It was ourselves. We caused it. It's just poor. We're 5 points off Chelsea now. We're top. And 5 points isn't a whole lot because we're only 10 games in. But that Chelsea side, they are unbelievable at the moment. They don't look like losing.
Yeah, we said after the West Ham loss in the Carabao Cup that, listen, yeah, it's not nice to lose a game and to not score, and then to lose on penalties is always quite a sour feeling. But we said it's fine, like it's okay, we can accept it on the basis that there's a massive bounce back and a huge emphasis put on this Palace game and the Premier League in general going forward. There's no excuse, less competition to worry about. There's no excuse for not putting in massive performances and not fielding your strongest team pretty well every Premier League game now. And like you said, it's what he did against Palace, and it just failed. It was a complete disaster. I hate saying that because I absolutely love this team. I love the manager. I hate criticizing them. They've given us so many great moments, but criticism where it's due. Today was just not the day. Everything went wrong. It was slow. It was sluggish. And it, like I keep saying, it was, in terms of the October review, it was a very poor note to end the month on after what was a very good month to start off with. So in terms of the November preview, we will talk about that in depth on the actual video for the November preview. But just after today's game, now really is time to bounce back. We said bounce back after West Ham. Bounce fucking back now for November. November's a massive month, December's a massive month, and January, 3 of the biggest months in my opinion in the Premier League calendar, because that's when you start to form gaps. We can't afford to let Chelsea make a big gap at the top of the table. So we need to keep the pressure on and show what we're made of. It's a real test of our character now. So do leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe if you're new as well. Let us know your thoughts on the whole month of October. Do you think we're being fair? Do you think we're being harsh? Any games in particular you remember? Any good memories? Any bad ones? Let us know down below, and we will see you very soon with a November preview. Hopefully a bit more optimism in that. Good night. God bless.